Welcome to Living Fullness, a podcast where two unusual friends explore all things friendships, relationships, and the Christian life. My name is Stina Constantine.
And I'm Father Sean Burns. And each month we bring you a guest, someone who will share their experience and strengths with us, helping us to learn, grow, and live life to the full. Hello and welcome back to the Living Fullness podcast. Once a month we bring you a guest interview, and this month we have with us a very special guest, part of the Virtue Ministry team. Stina, would you like to introduce our guest?
I would love to. So today we've got Andrew Flores here with us. He is a husband and a father. He's a trained primary school teacher and a former youth worker for the Wagga Wagga Diocese. He's also a singer and a part of an ensemble, and he is a Virtue Ministry speaker and workshop developer. So welcome to Andrew Flores.
Thanks, team.
Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
How are you going?
Hello, it is good to be here. I'm going very well, thanks.
That's the way. That's the way. Tell us where you're coming, to us from.
Oh, look, I'm actually coming from my 3-year-old's bedroom. It was previously my study, so a few things up here. If I spin you around, you'll see all her toys. So we'll keep it this way. My family and I live in Albury. I'm a teacher here in the region, and what can I tell you? I haven't really moved far from where I grew up. My parents actually live 4 blocks down the road, which comes in really handy, those last-second dinners or a hand around the house. They're very generous to us, and it's really nice to be in close proximity.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
Maybe a place that we might be able to start, Andrew, is, I've known you for a few years now, but perhaps for our listeners and our viewers on YouTube, maybe you could share a bit about your faith journey. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What was things like at home? Were you always a Christian? And where does faith fit into the picture for you?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to share that. Look, it all kind of started when I was born, if you would believe that. My family, they've always lived here in Albury. My parents are migrants here from the Philippines. I think it's 36 years this year.
Wow.
They've done a good job. So they came over to give a better life to their children. It was pretty rough where they grew up, and they had particular trials that they wanted to alleviate from their kids. So they came here with that hope, and I think they've done a really good job. I grew up going to primary school and secondary school here in Albury through both the Catholic and the public system. Did a pretty good job. And I really enjoyed, especially my primary schooling, I really enjoyed going through the Catholic system, learning about God and being exposed in a very healthy way to the faith. But kind of going into high school, I went to a public school for different reasons, mostly financial at the time. Mm-hmm. And public school was just a huge eye-opener. And I think it was most definitely the hand of God really kind of easing me into the world. You grow up in your family, everything's very, relatively easy. Everything's kind of given to you, and you don't have to work too hard. And coming into a public school, especially coming into that in year 8, was very difficult. Having started some friendships in year 7, and following those from primary, but kind of being dumped not just in the deep end, but in the diving pool, which was very interesting. My faith kind of got tested, I suppose, through high school. We didn't ever not go to Mass. That was kind of the one thing that my family always did. We always attended Sunday Mass. It's always been at the same church, apart from really small stints at St. Patrick's here in Albury. I've got a great love for that church and that parish. So I'm pretty sure I was baptised there. I received my sacraments at Holy Spirit in Lavington, but I got married at St. Pat's. So a bit further in the story, I kind of found my faith back at that parish through a great parish priest there, Father Brendan Lee, and we've baptised our babies there. So it's been it's been a really integral part of our faith lives in terms of a structural, hierarchical way, but also from the heart, it's like home for us. Yeah, it's very, very special.
Wow.
Yeah, so
and it sounds there then you've had all of the foundations sort of there. Really, like you've painted a picture of, the family life is going really well. You had opportunities to be able to see things both in a Catholic and a private, in a public and a private system. You've had a great community, a faith community around you, but you also mentioned there that you had a bit of a coming back to the faith. So what sort of happened? Where was the stepping away to then be able to come back?
Yeah, certainly. That's a great question. I often ponder this when I get a quiet moment, maybe out in the garden or am driving somewhere. Like, how did I find myself here in a really good way, that is. And kind of coming into high school, like none of my friends had faith. No one. I'd say maybe 3% of the whole population of the school were categorized as spiritual. There was just no faith. It was rather agnostic, if I'm to put it lightly there, with that regard. But for me, like the family life just kept going, so I just kept going to mass, and my family kept doing that. I have a very vivid memory, and set of memories of our family and our wider family, like my aunties and uncles and cousins, of us praying the rosary. And the rosary was only ever said as a whole family, probably 3 or 4 times a year, and that would be on a particular person's death anniversary. So we'd all come together, we'd have dinner, we'd have the rosary, subsequent uncles would fall asleep in the rosary, kids would play in the rosary. And at the end, there's this Filipino tradition where I'm pretty sure it's called manopo, where you would then take the hand of all of the adults and you would like bless yourself, like with their hand. It was a really interesting thing. I don't quite know the origin.
Yeah.
And I often laugh about it with my wife now. Like, what does that mean? Like, it's very deep and it's very spiritual for them. But like, we were never taught the meaning, so we kind of became a joke. But, that was one of those memories. I also remember at times it kind of like became a succession of waves. Like the Holy Mary would start and the Hail Mary would start, the Holy Mary would start. And as if everyone was racing, it became like this big whitewater raft of prayers. It was very beautiful in the end. But I used to try and pick who's going to go first here, who's going to start really early, and is this going to go the entire decade? What's going to happen? So faith was tested. I wouldn't say I lost my faith. I remember lots of instances, especially being challenged in social situations, maybe perhaps some risk-taking behaviours where I would actually ask God, like, hey, this is scary. Can you help me? Or I don't know what I'm doing. And, through his grace, I never really hurt myself. Or I never really went too far down a rabbit hole. It was like that life jacket or those life jacket and arm thingos that you give the baby.
Yeah, sure. Like the floaties.
Yeah, like I never went under, and I'm really grateful for that. And that's the only kind of explanation that I can give is that God and my guardian angel were most certainly looking after me. It wasn't until my gap year, and I was 17 through high school, so turned 18 the following year. And because I didn't get any uni offers that year, I continued with my tennis coaching. So I took a year to play and travel around and play some tournaments. And I also coached full time. So that became my life. And it wasn't until a particular Sunday that my family and I went to Mass. And our then parish priest, Father Brendan Lee, was, greeting everyone after Mass on the way out. And he said, "Oh, hey, Andrew, James, like, how you going? You're going well." And he said the one line that was just going to hook me to do whatever he wanted, and it was, "Have you been working out?" And I thought, yeah, he's hit me right where it counts. Like, yeah, I have, Father. Yeah, I have. And then he said, look, we've got a young adults group this Wednesday night. You guys should come along. And so that just started the ball rolling, and it snowballed big time.
Yeah, wow.
Brilliant. Fantastic. there's there's something to be said, isn't there, for the a good father often knows exactly what needs to be said. And sometimes it's the most innocuous throwaway line that on the face of it kind of means nothing, but it captures the attention of whoever it's aimed at. That's pretty cool.
What a fisher of men, hey?
Yeah, yeah.
He certainly threw the right bait out.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Yeah,
it was good. And kind of following from there, we just started attending every Wednesday night, and it was a magnificent young adult group that we found ourselves in the throes of. It was post World Youth Day Sydney. You know, there was a 25-strong group every week.
Oh,
it was awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and
so there's some real fruit that came from
going.
That.
Yeah, it's absolutely, Father. Yeah.
Beautiful. Andrew, could you, while we're sort of unfolding the life that is Andrew Flores, could you tell us a bit about your family, your wife and children? How did you meet your wife? That sort of thing.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I can answer that question by continuing my story.
Hey,
this is serendipitous.
I shouldn't have even interrupted. I just keep going.
Please. It's like we planned this. When we actually didn't plan this. Right, so we're going to young adults group. We were going here, there, and everywhere for different activities. Pre-COVID life, and there was a particular World Youth Day celebration. Now, Father or Stina, could you remind me of the year World Youth Day Madrid was? I can't remember.
2013? 2012?
No, I'll go 13.
13?
13,
right.
Yeah, that sounds good. So the year prior to that, which makes sense chronologically now, it was a diocesan gathering, and it was at the cathedral in Wagga. So my friends and I went up from here, and we met with the greater young adults group, which was awesome. And it wasn't until after Mass, and we were all heading down to the lake Wagga Beach. Forgive me, Wagga Beach.
Number 9 in the world.
All of our listeners.
Number 9 inland.
Can you please look up Wagga Beach? You'll be really surprised. We went down there, and this is where the story differs if you ask my wife. We were all going back up to the then youth worker's car because she had brought all the supplies. So we went up, and so Miriam Curley was her name, and she was coming down, and Bernadette, who I had not yet met, was also coming down. We had a mutual friend named Anna, and Anna had introduced us, and I most definitely offered to carry something for her. But again, if you ask my wife, who was most probably right, she's the better of the halves here. She said, I remember this vividly, and you did not ask or offer to carry that box I was carrying. Anyway, needless to say, we met, we kind of struck about a friendship, and that was really the start of that kind of chapter of our lives. She was living in Wagga at the time with her family, and I was here in Albury, so we didn't often see each other for the first few months, and we quickly found that we had lots of mutual friends, which was highly beneficial. And I think, giving a tangent off somewhere else where if you're thinking about someone else or you're interested in someone, that mutual friends are really important, and I'd say they're necessary. They'll give you encouragement but keep you grounded as well. So, we kind of did that, and it was over the course of 9 months, I think it was. 9 months seems to play quite a significant timeline in our marriage and our courtship. So after 9 months, she actually let me ask her father if I could date her because she was in year 12 at the time. She had made a promise to God that she would not allow any romantic friendships to kind of grow and just to focus her efforts on her study. And I found that so admirable. It was one of the baits, I suppose, she didn't cast on purpose, but something that I really, found myself drawn to.
Yeah, sure.
With her. So instead, we caught up for coffee and we had phone calls and that kind of thing. And that distance that we together decided, I suppose, from her initial thoughts there, really helped us to create a friendship, a virtuous friendship, before anything else may have happened. And so that was really wonderful. The 9 months later, I asked her father, because that was what she had asked of me. And again, another one of those really admirable things, which our listeners may be like, what is going on? But that's what used to happen. And I I dare to say now, that's what I'm expecting from my daughters too. It just keeps it transparent. But it also keeps it really, what's the word I'm looking for? It keeps it really true and good and beautiful. Verum pulchrum et bonum. That's where we see Christ, right? And the true, good, and beautiful. In incorporating this into our friendship and into our, I suppose, flourishing courtship, it really laid some strong foundations. We were building a house on rock and not sand. It was lovely. Yeah. So going on from there, we started courting, which was excellent. It was the best time of our lives. Courtship was the best. I often reminisce of the times where, you would work so hard to be able to be with each other because we were in separate towns doing separate things. And when we were together, it was just us. And the thing we always did together first was we'd go and pray, which was, again, one of those foundational things that our community really helped us to develop. We had lots of friends who were, I suppose, further along the line with their relationships or their experiences, and this was a resounding non-negotiable. It was go and pray. Like, if you're serious about this person, you like this person, cool. Then go and pray. And if they don't pray with you, let them go.
Yes.
Truth. Yes. Just the truth of the matter. Like, it's a hard truth. So we did that, and things went really well until we broke up, which was really sad.
Yes.
Yeah, really sad. I suppose neither of us really saw it coming, but it was just time that we needed apart. 9 months later, we kind of found ourselves back in the same, I suppose, proximity. I don't know. Maybe I should elaborate on this. When you break up with someone that you love dearly, you need physical proximity to dissipate. I think, in order to really pursue the good in that situation, you need to be apart because you are having a break. Be it planned, short, long, however. Otherwise, things can get a little bit muddled up and a little bit confusing. So that was a really difficult time in our lives. I can't speak too much for my wife's, but it was really, really hard for me. But in those really deep, dark struggles, I had one person to always lean on, and that was God. That was God, and that was Jesus. That was the Holy Spirit. They were always there for me. They were always guiding me. It was, I would use the word terrible in its original sense. It was great and sometimes scary of a time.
And can I just say that as someone who was sort of in the circles at the time when that happened, like, it was hard on us. Because we saw how good the two of you guys were together.
Oh, goodness.
When you separated, it was like, no, what? No, what? But why? We don't, we respected it, and we were like, okay, God, we trust that this is your will, but we don't understand what's going on. But at the same time, I have to say there was no animosity between the two of you, which was very unfamiliar because every other relationship that we would see where a couple would separate, there was always like some sort of anger or some sort of a wound that was left that was so painful that it would breed in a way that was really toxic, which wasn't the case with the two of you, which I think as friends and acquaintances, we were able to then accept it a lot easier because we could see that the two of you, although as hard as it was for the two of you, we could see that something good was going to come of this at some point because you guys were both so respectful of one another. It was definitely something to see and take note of.
Oh, thank you. That's the first I've heard of a different perspective. It's really nice. We worked really hard on our friendship in that time to be able to give that space, but also to be respectful. I think that kind of goes back to the fact that we really built a virtuous friendship. It was regardless of the reasonings and the two sides of the story, it was basically that, well, we're here now, and how can we still love each other, though not in that romantic sense.
There's actually something to go back to. There's a foundation to go back to and say, well, okay, this friendship needs to look different because of various aspects that have gone on. Like you were saying, proximity is a big factor that needs to dissipate in order to give that time. But you actually still have something to go back to in terms of that virtuous friendship. That's what motivates your action. Without that, I think what naturally erupts is anger. Because there's been so much investment in a romantic relationship. And when that goes and there's nothing left, it kind of feels like one has been robbed.
Yeah. It's that bitterness, isn't it, that comes out.
Right. No, very, very wise. Yeah. Can I say that in a similar manner to Stina, the news that you guys had broken up reached the seminary community. And we were cut.
We were all cut.
This is what happens, though. This is what happens when two people who are striving in their faith come together as a pair. The witness that they hold, it touches people everywhere. And it's just, this is just an example of what happens when two people like that come together. So
exactly.
That's very humbling, you guys. It's very humbling. Gosh. Very humbling. Sorry for cutting you guys so deep.
It was all part of God's plan and God's time. That's okay. That's all right.
Now. Yeah. It's all good.
Look, I'm sure when we also heard the news that you guys got back together and there were plenty of champagne popping.
Yes, that's right. There was shouts of rejoicing from rooftops.
That's funny. That's funny. Father, you touched on my family, the rest of them, kind of fast forward to where we are right now. Just for the sake of time, I suppose I could talk all day about my lovely wife. I just adore her.
We should get the two of you on at some point together.
Totally.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah. So we got married in 2017. Oh, that was a struggle. Sorry, Dale. Yeah, 2017. Feast of the Epiphany. We got married, and then Adelaide, our first child, was born in May 2018, and then last year the twins were born. So they are they're on the cusp of their first year, which will be an almighty celebration for my wife and I. They won't remember it. That's okay. But yeah, it's been a huge year with 3 under 3 and the twins.
Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, their names. So Adelaide, Sophia, and Aurelia.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
We like them.
Yeah. How are the twins? Are they similar to each other or different?
Oh well, so they're fraternal. which is a little bit like, oh, like everyone's seeing twins, and you're like, oh, twins, identical, this is going to be awesome. I think it's one of God's like humorous jokes. You think you've got life sorted, big boy? Well, here you go. I remember the
curveball.
I remember the scan. Here, another one of these stories where my story differs a little bit to Mel. Anyway, we'll get to the point where we come back together in the story. But the sonographer was just moving so fast, and these appointments we find highly stressful. They're not ones that we like jump out of our skin, are really excited to go to. For us, it's like, oh, we just want a heartbeat. We just want to see our little baby.
Yeah.
And we can't really rest easily and peacefully until you know, because it could be 5, 6, 7 weeks that you know you're pregnant, but you haven't yet been able to see the baby. So we had this scan, and this sonographer, she was obviously a boss because she was whipping around that screen like you wouldn't believe. And after about 5 minutes or so, she looked at me and she said, "Do you see what I see?" And I thought, no, I don't see what you see. And the way you asked that question makes me really upset already.
Oh.
And she said, "Well, there are 2." And we were just like, what? What? You need to look at that again. I didn't see that. But what? She said, "Yeah, look." And there was 1 and there was 2 and
oh gosh,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then she continued to say, "Actually, there are 3 there. There are 3, but one of the sacs hadn't developed, so it was like the body had prepared, God had prepared, and yeah, but we had 2, and it was incredible. What a moment for us.
Oh, wonderful.
And yeah, it was the pregnancy was really good. Yeah, Bernadette did just an excellent job. She's a Wonder Woman. She carried them all the way to, I think it was 30. Look, it was late enough to get every nurse in there very cross at us.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyway,
that's for another day.
yeah. No, we just wanted our babies to grow, and yeah, thankfully God allowed that. So they, to put in context, they were the babies who were they were born the latest out of all the sets of twins in the last 12 months. So basically, if you're a twin, you're kind of seen as a high risk pregnancy.
Yeah.
And,
I see. Okay.
And they want to accelerate all of that other side of it, where we just wanted God to do His thing.
Yeah.
And we weren't too fussed. So B did a really good job and went through, and the twins were born. That was tell you what, that made me a man with my twins. Yeah. So just an awesome thing to be able to welcome 2 babies into the world at once.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just about one. They are nothing alike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of chalk and cheese. Even physically, like Aurelia is quite a lot thinner than Sophia. Sophia has the nickname Big Woman because she has always been just on great pasture. Yeah, so she's there, and Aurelia has lots of hair. Sophia has no hair. Aurelia is like a double sanguine extrovert. Sophia will like sit herself at the back of the lounge room and watch it all kind of blow up. It's really, really interesting. Yeah, they're chalk and cheese. Yeah, yeah.
And what's Adelaide like as a sister?
Oh, she's doting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So here's a funny story for you. That's so doting. Adelaide and I picked up Adelaide from her aunties, her godmothers at the time, and we drove to the hospital to pick the girls up. We got there, and it's a huge ordeal. Like, I don't know how to put 2 capsules in, and we're doing all this. We get the babies in, and we're driving away, and Adelaide was eating her crackers because she was hungry, and Adelaide stopped talking. Usually Adelaide talks through everything, dinner, sleep, maths. She was the whole time. And we're like, Adelaide, what's the what are you doing back there? Like, I'm just feeding the babies, Mum. And she was trying to put crackers in the twins' mouths. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I pulled over, Bernadette turned around, like, oh no, we can't feed the babies. We can't feed the babies. Oh, it was so sweet. Yeah, she's just been like the most excellent big sister. Yeah, she looks after them. She's been very, very helpful to her mother. That's not to say that they don't quarrel, because they do.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Siblings.
Yeah,
Sure.
And I tell Adelaide all the time, you just got to watch out, Dale, because they're going to get big soon too. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. They'll create lots of stories, though.
The twins strike back.
Yeah, that's right.
The twins strike back.
That's right, Padre.
They form an alliance. Oh. Let's have a little bit of a chat. I'm conscious about the time here, so we're not going to have too much time, but let's have a little bit of a chat about convictions, because one thing that I learned very early on from when I met you, Andrew, is that you're someone who, once you're convicted of something, there's like no stopping you. That's it. That's all in, like, just go. There's no sort of, you might sort of consider it as in take in further information to rethink something, but you live it all out. there's no half-heartedness in you. So I guess when it comes to that, and especially given, like the dating scene, the working atmosphere, even being a family man in our current culture, what sort of helped you to navigate that space to make decisions around your convictions and staying true to that?
Yeah, look, it's something that has not always been like second nature. When I was kind of in my late teens, I would say early and late teens, I was fairly flippant, and I always wanted to go with the tide, because I sought what I didn't know was true friendship, and I sought that through the wrong paths. I thought that popularity would get me somewhere. I thought that humor would get me somewhere. I thought that risk-taking behaviours would get me that which I didn't know what it was, which I now know as a virtuous friendship or virtuous friendships, and it kind of just changed. I think along the line there are lots of different things that helped me, or I shouldn't say helped me, that formed me. Yeah, it wasn't as if I got to see a menu and signed up for the ticker box. Yes, I'll have that one over there, and yes, I'm no good there, but oh yeah, that friend, yeah, okay, tick. No, it was kind of like I found myself where I was, and I most definitely think that the Holy Spirit was at times more than guiding me and shielding me with people or with places, just falling into alignment at the right time. Serendipitous, some may call it, a grace field. I would push. So I always found that no matter how much I wanted something, there was I did not time. My conscience was just so clear on what was right and wrong. Mm-hmm. So clear. There was, and to this day, there's never been a doubt in my mind, in my entire being. I'll see it, or I'll read it, or I'll hear it, and I'll just know. And if I don't know, I'm always erring on the side of caution. Mm-hmm. Again, one of those life lessons that I just learnt. There's no point half dipping into something. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. Yeah. Even going through uni, I can recall a really particular incident, because I went to Charles Sturt Uni here in Albury, and it was in the first semester, and the second semester, and I had a lecturer for a course there who I'd had previously. somehow it came out in the wash that I was a Christian. Maybe it was my big cross that I wore every day or something. And this particular day I was running late to class, and I arrived about 5 minutes in. And I remember coming in, and I struck up a really good friendship with these two young ladies, one named Tegan and one named Meg, who were excellent people. And I remember sliding in, and Meg leaned over and said, "Where have you been?" I said, I was just late. Truth be told, I was probably at the gym at the time, and then lost track of time and didn't get there,
Sure.
And she said, "Oh, the lecturer just roasted you and you weren't here." And I was like, "Oh, what's about?" I almost got up and I was like, "Hey, what have I missed?" And she's like, "I'll tell you later. Basically, this lecturer started her concept or her course bashing Christianity, and not even an offhand comment, but a comment was made, "Oh, I wish Andrew was here." And I thought, whoa. Convicted as I may to retaliate, before the next week's lecture, I didn't. And instead, I worked really hard to please this lady. And in the end, I didn't please her. But the story goes that I was never going to. And so it was really important that I just did what I had to do in a really good manner. And that's one of those convictions that I really try and live by every day, is that I'm not perfect. Only two have been perfect ever. Our Lord and our Lady. And I'm not one of either of them. Good enough is perfect with your convictions, as long as you stay true to them. And one of those things is just getting in and working hard. Yeah. Both my parents have worked like absolute Trojans their entire lives, like multiple jobs, rotating shift work, to the point where we wouldn't see them very often at some points in our upbringing. But they did it out of love, and they were really convicted in what they were doing was the right thing to do. And so one of those things just scrubbed off onto my brother and I. And, of course we've taken our own spin on it because we're different people, but
of course.
But that characteristic of working hard and striving for the good in what you do is one thing that we really try and live by. Yeah. I know, like in current workplaces, in current society, God is laughed at. If he's not laughed at, he's not acknowledged. I have a friend who is he's a bit older than I, and he's a registered nurse, registered teacher, registered masseur, registered counsellor. Like, he's one of those weapons that you get really jealous of. Yeah, he's done everything twice. Yeah, I speak about him because these are the people that I don't always choose to, but that God has surrounded me with. I'm a really big believer in that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yes.
So I've always picked 5 really high achieving people, and I've annoyed them no end, my entire adult life. And this is one of these guys. He has this moral fiber and this gumption about God. Just, he's the man, And he was telling me a story one day. He said, "Oh, Andrew, I went to this big conference and they started acknowledging like the custodians of the land, and I thought, oh, that's really admirable, but it just didn't sit right with me." So he went over there and he goes, "Hey, just what about God?" It was so funny. And like they had this big conversation. He's like, yeah. Like, I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong, but God made this first. Yeah. And I think in that's a really, really gung-ho and almost confrontational way of taking your faith. One that I used to do a lot, not so much anymore. I think I pushed more people away, being a bit too forward. with my convictions and almost projecting my convictions and expecting others to be the same. And I think that's a grave mistake that I am probably guilty of more than I care to acknowledge. But I know that on the flip side of that, through living out my convictions, like my faith, at uni, in the gym, on the sports field, at the sports presentation night, at work, in day-to-day life with my family, people see it.
Yeah.
People see it, and they'll not always know what that defining characteristic is, or what separates you from them, but they certainly see it, and they always want it. It's always a great conversation starter. Like, you'll get through the weather, and you'll get through what you do for a job, and they might ask about your family, and then they'll ask you, so, like, what do you do? What do you like? It's like, well, actually, like, God's really cool. Have you met him? Or, I went to adoration the other night. And that kind of starts a conversation where it's led by the other person. And I think that's one of the ways that I've kind of developed, I suppose. Yeah.
So there's kind of a responsibility not only to live your convictions thoroughly, but also there's a responsibility to communicate conviction in a way that is actually convicting. In a way that doesn't, as you say, that doesn't drive people away, but in a way that is attractive to people. And from what you're saying, I think what that comes down to is being a living icon of Christ's love as a family, as a man, being that living icon in the public square.
Yeah, I would certainly say that's true, Father. It's something that I don't know. For me, it was really it's kind of black and white, and there have been times recently, even in my professional life, where people are asked to take a position, and the position, I'm sorry to anyone who is offended by this, but the position isn't where the majority lies. That isn't only where the majority lies. It isn't based on what everyone else thinks is correct. What is correct is correct. What is incorrect is incorrect. And it's not a blame game. It's not a right and wrong game. It's not an I'm better than you game. It's just truth, beauty, and goodness.
Right.
Those are the three lenses that I really try to look through in every aspect of my life. What is true, what is good, what is beautiful. Because when you strike those three, then God's there too.
I do have to say, though, Andrew, that the sheer fact that you can look at something as black and white is a gift in itself, because there are so many opportunities in my own life where I've looked at different circumstances and gone, I really don't know what I'm meant to do with this. And thankfully I've had people around me that I've been able to bounce things off and who've been able to say, well, here's one thing you need to do. Number one, let's pray.
Absolutely.
And then, how about we actually ask some questions, and how about we find some information? But the sheer fact that you have this strength to be able to go, well, no, I can see through, if not everything, most things, I can see through, and I know exactly what's right here, or I can at least identify what's not right here. That is a gift in itself.
Look, I need to say, like, I most definitely rely on those, not just 5, but 50 others around me, for that clarity, for that soundboard, for that experience. I think it's foolish if you don't listen to those around you. Our Lord teaches us many things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, we've kind of hit the end of the episode here at this point. So,
sad.
that's okay. Look, we'll have you and Bernadette back sometime if Bernadette would like to be on the podcast. I certainly love it. I would love it.
Yes.
And I'd love for our listeners and our viewers to be able to meet Bernadette too. She really is a beautiful woman inside and out. So it would be an absolute pleasure to interview her too. But before we go,
I'll plant the seeds, Zena.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
Thanks. But before we go, I do also want to say that there will be a bit more coming from Andrew this year in 2022. So you will be seeing a bit more of Andrew on Virtue Ministry's social media pages. So if you haven't already, please jump over and follow us over there. And you'll be able to get to know Andrew a little bit more through that space too. But before we go, we have some random questions for you, which is the way we like to end our episodes with our guests, just to give a little other side of our guests. So, Padre, would you like to go first?
Sure.
Is this one of those, like, I answer with the first thing that comes into my head?
First thing that comes to mind.
Oh, all right.
What was the last gift you gave someone?
A coffee.
That's
Good.
one of the best gifts you could ever give.
When you said before about Father Lee, baiting you, I was really thinking, he must have asked, do you want a coffee or something?
Oh, no.
Okay, that wasn't it.
That would have worked too. That would have worked too, but not as strong. No.
Not as strong as the gym,
He
I see.
went straight for the flesh. I'm glad you got that. Thank you.
Okay, question 2. What is the number one quality you look for in a friend?
The number one quality.
Number one quality.
Oh, I don't really look for friends. That sounds really, really dodgy. I find friends. Friends find me. I suppose. Yeah, I need to change the question.
Let's rephrase it then.
Yeah,
What's the
go
number
on.
one thing that attracts you in friendship?
Yeah, I can't cop out and say common interests, can I?
You could.
No, I think someone that's generous.
Good one.
Yep. Who are 3 of your role models?
Okay, my father, most definitely. He is a role model. Christ is most definitely a role model. And the third, goodness. I should probably mention a saint here, shouldn't I? Blessed Pierre, Giorgio Frassati. He's a pretty good role model.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, number 4. What's the one thing you do that annoys Bernadette the most?
Oh, the one thing. Oh, I wear too many clothes. I do.
As in you have a large wardrobe, or you just wear a lot of clothes every day?
I've been Marie Kondoing for like 12 months. And, getting rid of stuff that I just don't wear. But inevitably, every time the washing comes out, my pile is always the biggest. I would say that's one of the most annoying things about me.
Oh, bless.
Sorry, Dales, love you. Sorry,
you're stuck.
Can I interrupt, Father?
Yeah.
I've just recently come back. Yesterday I came back from a road trip with Swell Vox, which is a little group that I sing with. And we went to a district where the pizza is beyond belief. And the word, it is like coming out of my mouth, is pizza, pizza, pizza. For every question you're going to ask. So I just need to get it out. I had the most tremendous pizza. All
right.
You won't ask me, but I just need to let you know.
No, but just wait for this next one. Just wait for this next question.
Here you go. You're stuck on a deserted island.
Pizza. I get other things too, yeah?
You got a choice of 3. So pizza,
Okay. Gosh.
What are the other two?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to three. So three things. Three things?
3 things.
Are they all inanimate, or can I have an animated thing too?
Well, they're things. So
Inanimate. Okay. Yeah, look, if it's pizza from that district, I'll have that. That was excellent. I would also like to bring... Oh, goodness. I don't know. My coffee machine and everything needed to run the coffee machine. That's 2. And
everything
pillow.
you need to run the coffee machine is 2.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a package.
It's all one package.
Yeah, you can't. Don't just buy a machine and done with it. And a pillow, father.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice. Okay.
It's a comfortable deserted island then.
No, you can't be lying on a coconut. No way.
Oh, and the last question for you, Andrew, is tell us about something that's beating a lot of fruit in your life at the moment.
Not our apple tree. It's got a couple. What is bearing a lot of fruit?
Yeah.
My convictions are bearing a lot of fruit. Yeah. There are a certain number of challenges being thrown my way as a husband and a father, our way as a family, our way as a church. But with our convictions, with our faith, with our constant pursuit of Christ in all things, fruit it's flourishing.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast with us today, Andrew.
Pleasure. Let me come
Really
back again.
appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
beautiful.
We'd love
Great
to have you
having
back
you
again. And you mentioned Swell Vox there, so we'll put a link to the website that you guys have as well in the description box for people to go and check out. Do you guys have a social media handle as well?
Don't know. My brother is he's all the legwork.
Yeah. Shout out to James Flores.
He's all the legwork and I'm all the fun. As in I don't provide the fun. The younger boys do that. I just enjoy the fun.
Okay.
Swell Vox. I also just sing the bottom line, which is arguably the easiest line. But without the bottom line, everyone else sounds terrible.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. You keep everybody anchored.
That's it. That's it.
Good job. Alrighty. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Living Fullness. And as always, we'll catch you next time. But until then, know of our love and prayers.
God bless. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Living Fullness. We hope that in this episode there was something useful or helpful or something that blessed your life. If that is the case, would you please consider sharing this podcast with someone? Perhaps it will bless their lives too.
Please also subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. That will also help others to find the podcast too. And join us over on our social media, Living Fullness on Instagram and Virtue Ministry on Facebook.